All right, welcome everyone. It is another Wednesday, and again, we are here with egelloC Financial Aid to talk a little bit about financial aid, right? Now, today we're going to be talking about seniors a little bit because obviously it is a kind of like critical time for them. So we're going to be talking about if it's too late for financial aid. The answer is maybe not, and the answer is maybe no, right? But if you guys can help me out by putting your students' grade in the chat, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay. It is December 17th. It's right at 5 o'clock, but we are going to get started. Okay. So just the kind of what we're going to be covering today. I'm always going to bring you guys new financial aid news, right? We're going to talk about the class of 2026. Is it too late? We're going to be talking about 27, 28, 29 as well, right? And if you guys have not seen me before, here I am. My name is Coach David. I am part of egelloC and egelloC Financial Aid. We are here to help your student get into college. And for you parents, we are here to help your family pay for it. Okay. I'm a former law school and college admissions reader. I used to be a lawyer, but now here I am helping families to get to college and also help them pay. Okay. Now, the first thing that I want to say and that I'm going to be trying to change a little bit is question time. Okay. I want to make sure that I kind of get questions ahead of time so that I can kind of see if they are in line with what I'm talking about so I can answer them so that our kind of people that kind of take time out of their day to come to our trainings are able to get their questions answered in an efficient manner. Okay. And I also want to make sure to answer them because I know that there's a lot of times where we're at the end of the training, people are kind of wiped out from all the information that I've been throwing at you. And so I want to make sure that all the questions get out there. So if you guys do have questions, whether they're general questions or they have to do with our training today, any questions are great questions because I'm sure that there are other people out there that have the same questions as you. Okay. So there are no bad questions. If you feel a little bit kind of self-conscious about asking your question, you can send it in the Q&A or you can send it in the chat just to the host and panelists. Then only I will be able to see them. Okay. But if you guys do have questions, I want you to make sure that you're putting them in and not forgetting about them so that later when I have the Q&A session at the end, right, you guys don't know what you guys wanted to ask before. Okay. I will try to get to them ASAP if they are kind of like based on what our training is, or if not, I will make sure to get them at the end. Okay. So again, if you guys have general questions, other questions, put them all in as we're going through. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds to think about questions that you might have for me, and I will go ahead and kind of wait real quick here, okay? And I'll take a drink of water while I'm doing that. All right. So we have a question here. Great, right? I will get to that. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with our training today, but I will answer it at the end. So please stick around, okay? All right, good. So hopefully you guys have been able to ask your question, right? And then I'll get to them in line with what we're talking about or either at the end, okay? So let's move on to financial aid news, okay? Now, there's always something going on with financial aid, but I try to bring you guys the new things, the things that are relevant to families, okay? Now, as of today, there are two new bills that are before kind of the US government, and they are called the College Financial Aid Clarity Act and the Student Financial Aid Clarity Act. Okay. Now, these two bills that are in front of our government to decide if they are going to be enacted or not are to increase transparency on how much college costs, right? And also how colleges provide information about financial aid to students, right? Because I'm sure if you have an older one that has already gone up to college, you looked at the financial aid award and you were like, I don't really understand what's going on here, right? They're very complicated and it's hard to understand sometimes, right? So with these new bills, there's kind of two major changes, right? One, colleges will have to use one uniform document to show students and families how much college costs. So every single college will have to use a single form. Well, I mean, let me backtrack that a little bit. Every college that is getting federal money to help students pay for college will have to use a uniformed document, right? Now, realistically, that's every single college in the United States. Okay. The other piece is that colleges will have to use a federally regulated net price calculator on their websites. Okay. So the net price calculators are those little things. If you can search up any school, like just Google search it, like Harvard net price calculator, Columbia net price calculator, UC Berkeley net price calculator, and it'll pull up a calculator on the school's website, kind of that will show you in very short order after asking a couple questions how much college is going to cost for your family. Now, one of the things that I've always said is, well, you can't really trust those net price calculators. In some situations, it gives you too rosy of a picture, like, oh, like your family's only going to pay this much. That's not actually the case. And in some situations, depending on your financial situation, it will actually show you that you're going to be getting less money than you actually deserve. Okay. So, right, making things uniform across the board is very nice. But here's the problem, right? The problem with this situation is that when the kind of like federally regulated net price calculators on there, they are not going to be able to kind of like, they are not going to be able to account for how much aid a certain college is going to give you. So it's not necessarily going to be a true representation. They can tell you how much the federal government is going to give you, but they're not going to be able to tell you how much the college will give you. So it's not going to be very accurate, right? So there's a lot of colleges out there right now that are saying, hey, this is going to hurt us because a lot of people are going to think that they cannot afford our college when in fact they actually can. Okay. So what will happen with these bills? I don't know, right? And even if the bills are passed, when will they take effect? I'm not sure, right? But as soon as I know, I will definitely let you guys know as well. Okay. Again, keep coming to our trainings if you want updated kind of news, right? But I'll try to bring you the latest and greatest every single week so that we can make sure that you guys are informed. Okay. Now, before I get into the training, I always say this, right? I'm going to be here to help you pay for college, right? But your student needs to get in first. And so the other side of this coin is college admissions, right? So if you do have a, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th grader, right? Our team is on kind of like it's waiting for you guys to reach out so that we can talk to you about the kind of like college admissions process and what your family needs to get to where they want to get. Okay. It's a quick call, right? So if you guys are interested in talking to us about our coaching programs, you can text 949-775-0865. All you have to text them is book, and then we will figure out what kind of programs. We'll ask you some questions and figure out an advisor you can sit down with so that you guys can figure out if our coaching programs are right for you. Okay. All right, and so for today, we are going to be talking about is financial aid still available, right? And for me, the simple answer is yes. Okay. So for seniors right now, right? You might have thought, oh, well, they already asked us to turn stuff in. I didn't turn anything in. What do I do? So on and so forth. The answer is that financial aid is still available. Now, again, this year, more than any other year that I've seen it, has basically like the media has like latched onto like first come, first serve. The media has latched onto like if you turn in things late, there's no money left, right? But here's the thing I tell families, and this is an actual statistic. Every single year, there's $2.3 billion of financial aid that is earmarked for education that is not used. We are not running out of money for anything. So please do not worry, right? If you have a senior and you guys have not applied for financial aid yet, that's okay. But we need to talk soon, right? Now, one of the things that you guys will see is that we're actually off starting on the 24th, right? So as a company, egelloC will be taking a break to recharge, reassess, refigure out all the things that happened in the last year so that we can provide you guys with the best services and best products, okay? But I will be here on the 24th, right? I will be having a kind of holiday special, right? Where I kind of answer questions. I will also be going over a short training as well, right? I don't know how many of you guys are actually going to be here, but I will be here. I'll keep it short and sweet. And again, Usually during the holidays, I like to have something special for for the people that attend our kind of sessions. So be on the lookout for a huge, huge discount. Okay. But getting back to this point here, yes, there is still financial aid available even for seniors at this point in the game, right? So what is still available for current seniors? Literally everything. Colleges state that they have these certain deadlines, right? Or that you need to turn in things by a certain time. These things are, in fact, not true, right? Now, the one thing I will say is that there are certain deadlines that you have to hit if you want to get notified by a certain time. Okay. So for instance, if your senior applied early action to a certain school, right? Then yes, if you want to get your financial aid award by the time that you get the admissions decision, then yes, you do need to turn it in, right? By a certain date, whatever it was like, December 1st or November 15th, whatever it might be, right? But these are just arbitrary deadlines. If you don't need to get your financial aid award at the same time, well, then it doesn't really matter, right? Now, keep in mind, me having said this, there are certain state and federal deadlines that apply, right? Depending on what state you're from, right? In California, the kind of like end of the road deadline is March 1st, right? It is April 1st for continuing students, right? So after March, there's not much we can do, right? But I've even helped students get financial aid in August, right before they head off to school. So again, nothing is out of the realm of possibility, but we want to make sure that we at least hit that state deadline. Okay. Now, if you're past the deadline, what should you be doing, right? The first is that you need to understand your decision-making process and the options. What I'm talking about is this. Let's say you applied early decision somewhere, right? Let's say that we just got in. We just had a student that got into Brown. They just let us know a couple minutes ago. So congratulations to that student and that family. You had all your hard work has paid off, right? But for that particular family, I didn't help them with their financial aid. I just we she was part of one of our programs, right? But they did call asking about financial aid, and I said, you know what? I can help, and I can help secure money for that school. The problem is that you're going to have to turn in your deposit within 72 hours usually, and so we're not going to get a financial aid award until after you've turned in your deposit. Okay. So again, you need to figure out kind of like when things are due, when things are this, when you can get your financial aid award. It's all kind of like a balancing act of figuring all that out, right? The second thing that you should be doing is need to be getting your required forms in, right? And as you turn in your required forms, it's not necessarily about providing every piece of information. It's about getting things in with the least amount of information so that they don't penalize you for having assets or this or that or other pieces that aren't necessarily required to answer. Okay. Third, you need to make sure to look at all your options before choosing or sure that your family has looked at the cost benefit analysis of each of the colleges that you're applying to, right? Now, unfortunately, I wish I could save every family money at every single college, but unfortunately, that is not the case. And that is one of the things that we talk about during our consultations, right? Where the student is thinking about applying and what I can do for your family, right? But there might be a certain school that you're looking at, and you might not necessarily be able to get, a larger amount of money, but you need to factor that into your decision making, right? And then at other schools, you might be able to get more, right? And then four, you need to create a list of options and costs so that you really understand exactly what the colleges cost and what the kind of like benefits and the kind of, the negative effects are of applying to that school later rather than kind of earlier. Okay. So these are some of the things that you have to keep in mind as you're going through this process. Okay. Sorry, just give me 1 second, guys. All right, sorry about that. Someone was knocking on my office door there, okay? But let's continue on, right? Now, if you are one of those senior families that like, didn't do anything yet, right? Well, there's a couple things that you need to be doing, and I'll kind of just go through like a general listing of things. The first is you should be going through FAFSA, right? That is the kind of preliminary form you need to do. Now, for schools that require it, CSS Profile, IDoc, additional college specific forms. Also on college portals, they might have extra forms they need you to fill out, or other systems that they need you to kind of like log into, right? Now, generally speaking, when it comes to like making a college decision, the date that you have to keep in mind is May 1st. That is like the general signing day for all colleges, right? But this is also not set in stone. Okay. Now, what the example I'll bring up is this. So last year and the year before that, there were huge delays in getting FAFSA processed. And so there were a lot of students that had applied early decision. We turned in their information on time so that they can get a decision. But because of the delays with financial aid, they weren't able to get their financial aid awards until after the May 1st deadlines. So the point I want to bring up here is that you can ask for extensions, right? There is no kind of like set rule. I've seen some schools even grant up to a month extension to make a decision, right? But it is not guaranteed that they will allow you to do that, right? So, right, if you are waiting on colleges and you haven't turned in things yet and you're going to get things back late, if you're in a situation where you haven't gotten where you got into the college, but you don't know what your financial aid offer is yet, you can call, ask them if they can extend the deadlines. Usually they're pretty accommodating, but only up to a certain point, right? You also need to make sure that you are kind of creating a plan A, B, C, and D, right? If they say yes, then we're going to do this. If they say no, we're going to do this, this, and this, right? But families that are working with us, you don't need to kind of worry about it. We have, your situation in mind, and we're kind of turning things in so that you don't have to worry about those situations, right? Um, but if you are doing it on your own, right, you need to take into account the risks that you'll be taking as you turn in things late. Okay. If you are doing things on your own, if you're a junior or below, do it by the posted deadlines. Don't put yourself in a position where you have to kind of like navigate a very murky water, right? For our families, don't worry about it. We have set up the strategy for you in a certain way because that is the way that works, and that we have found that works. Okay. Now, as far as the risks, you need to understand what they are, right? So turning things in late, right, whether by accident or purposely, right, because there are strategic reasons to turn it in late, right, means that most likely you will be getting your financial aid award late, right? That means that you may be in a position where you have to make a decision without knowing the exact cost of that college, right? So to prevent that, one of the things that you can do, ask for extensions, right? The other kind of like negative consequence that might happen is that you might need to turn in deposits at certain schools. But then if you decide, oh, well, this is a better offer and this is a better option for our family, then you might lose out on that deposit. Those deposits are non-refundable, right? So I do have students that like, especially like last year, they extended their kind of like decision day, right? But their financial aid still wasn't out. So they had to put deposits in at two places, right? Because they didn't know what their financial aid situation was. And the other college said, well, we can't hold out any longer, right? But you have to weigh the benefits and risks depending on your particular financial situation. And that is something that we will talk about, right? If you are a senior family, coming to us late, right? So we'll do everything to help, but there are situations where we might need to spend some money in order to save some money. Okay. So something to keep in mind. Okay. Now, class of 2027, we had kind of a junior kind of session last time, but for parents right now, you need to make sure that you're talking to us, right? I'd probably say 80% of the parents that I'm talking to over the last couple of weeks have been juniors, and it's because they're getting ready and prepped for the end of the year, because that is basically when tax planning ends, right? So you need to set up a consultation with us so that we can talk, right? You need to create a plan depending on how your taxes are going to look, right? So unfortunately, right, if you had a really good year this year, right, that's actually negative for your financial aid, right? If you had a really bad year this year, right, well, that's good for your financial aid, not good for your cash flow, right? So those are the things that we'll be looking at to figure out kind of like what is going to happen for your junior, right? Now, the kind of general advice that I will give to families is do everything that you can to lower your AGI, right? There's even, you can reach out to a financial advisor or a tax strategist so that they can figure out if there's any tax strategies that you can implement to bring that AGI down even further, right? But the first step to kind of like getting ready for this financial aid battle is that you need to understand the situation that you're in. I can only do that if you show up for a consultation. Okay. So please keep that in mind there. So here are the key takeaways that I have for today, right? The first is that there's still chances. So if we have seniors out there, right? If we have, juniors out there, right? Again, if you're a W-2 employee, there's not much you can do on your taxes, right? Everything is there. But, right, there are a lot more opportunities than you think. Just this past 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I've had 15 consultations. In 8 of them, the first thing I heard was, I signed up for this consultation, but I know that we're not going to get any aid, right? And I said, you're completely wrong. Let's talk it through, right? And as we talk it through, I show them where it's like, what do you mean you don't have any chances, right? Here are all the chances that you have. This is what I think I can save your family. This is what our program can do for you, right? So if you want to talk, it's great if we can talk anytime, right? But it would be great if we could talk before the end of the year, just in case you need to make any last minute changes on your taxes, right? Unfortunately, the one barrier to us all talking is my schedule, right? I am bombarded with meetings, right? Seniors kind of finishing up, right? So if you want to meet kind of like before the end of the year, text us ASAP. The phone number will be there later. So I can have my team set you up something kind of like on Thursday, Friday, Monday, or Tuesday, because we're out starting on Wednesday. Okay. There are still options. Let us talk as soon as possible. Okay. Now, in line with that, I always ask families to ask for help, whether it's a quick question or something we have to jump on a call for, right? Whether it's email, Facebook, Discord, please reach out to us so that we can help find you a time where we can talk and talk through your situation, right? Going into this blind is the worst thing that you can do. And just giving up and saying we're not going to apply for financial aid, uh, I'm not about that defeatist mindset. Okay. So before you do anything, and for seniors especially, before you turn in any forms or touch anything, right? If you haven't done anything yet, please reach out to us so we can talk before you make any critical mistakes. Okay. Now, as far as results, I always share these, right? So you guys have already seen these before, right? But we're able to save even higher income families money on college. Okay. So make sure to reach out to us so that we can talk. Okay. Now, we did have like a couple questions, one in the Q&A, one in the chat, and then I did want to make sure that you guys had our phone number. So our phone number is 650-860-5201. All you have to do is type in that phone number and text us money, right? And our team will reach out to you to set up a time ASAP so that we can talk to you before we head off for the holiday break. Okay. So let us get into questions now. Okay. So the first thing is, in the Q&A, there's a question and it says, so what is different about what you do versus what we do on the forums, right? So this family, I'm guessing that you probably had some experiences with the forums already for your older one, possibly, right? But the difference is that, well, I've been working with these forums for the last 16 years, right? I have studied them inside and out. I have understood exactly how the formulas are kind of made. And so I know where to kind of like slice and dice to get us to a position where we can get money from various types of schools. Okay. Now, I don't purport to be a magician, right? But there are a lot of things I can do at your home state schools and also at private schools, right? The one type of school that I cannot do anything for you, right, is the out-of-state public school. And it's not because I don't know how to fill out these forms. It is because you are not a resident of that state. Let me just give you an example. Let's say we have a California family. They live in the Bay Area, right? San Francisco Bay Area, right? And their kid wants to go to University of Washington. Unfortunately, your family is not a resident of Washington, which is one of the first qualifiers that you need in order to get aid from that school or that state or the federal government. So, is your family going to get anything from University of Washington? No. It's going to be full price, about $70,000 a year. Okay. That is what is going to happen. Now, you might be saying, Coach David, no, I know someone that went to a, out-of-state public school and they got money. I'm not saying that it's not available, right? I'm saying that nothing that I can do can change what you're going to get, right? So one of the schools that everyone brings up as an example is like, I know someone that went to ASU and they got a bunch of money to go there. And I'm like, yes, because if you have above a 3.0 and you're from an out of like from a different state other than Arizona, right? They automatically give you $13,000 a year, right? And it seems big on paper because it's $52,000 that they're giving you over 4 years, right? But you need to remember that it costs $70,000 a year to go to ASU. So you're still paying $57,000 to go to ASU. The question is, does that make sense for your family? Okay. We have another question here, and it says, does PSAT National Merit offer scholarships? It does, but only at particular schools, right? And at a lot of those schools, you have to mark them as the number one choice on your National Merit Scholarship application. Okay. Now, there's a bunch of schools that give you $2,000, $3,000. I'm not saying that's not a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but the question becomes, and this is kind of more of like a coaching question, but I'll kind of answer this as well, right? But the question becomes, is it worth putting that much time and effort into studying for your PSAT so that you can get the National Merit Scholarship for $2,000 or $3,000? My thought process is no, right? Now, there are colleges that have larger awards. Like, for instance, USC has like, I think it's like a 30% off tuition, which is like $20,000, right? 20, $25,000, roughly speaking. And so that's a pretty big award. And so, yeah, sure. But that's just one school out of, I don't know, 20, 25 that you're applying to. Is it worth the time and effort to do that for one school? Again, that's a question that you'll have to answer with your student, right? But my general thought process is that no, it isn't. I'd rather have your student focus on, doing more activities or pushing their academics more than the PSAT, because the PSAT, the actual score, doesn't matter for anything other than the National Merit Scholarship. Okay. All right, we have another question that says, does applying EA versus RD affect the amount of aid you can get from a private school? No, usually it does not. Okay. And I say usually, right? Because again, there's always exceptions, right? Um, but no, it doesn't change anything really, right? Now, between ED and regular decision, people have told me that, oh, there's a difference because they prefer students that don't need financial aid. To a certain extent, that is true, but the processes of financial aid and admissions are pretty separated. So while they might see that you're applying for financial aid, they don't know how much they're going to give you. They make a decision on whether you're in or not first, and then they decide how much they're going to give you, right? So EA and RD, because both of those are not binding, I haven't really seen a difference in the amount of aid that has been gotten, whether you apply EA or regular decision, right? The money that we get is usually the money that we think we're going to get. Okay. All right. Great questions. Okay. We have another question. It says, have you had families whose income decreased, but was still over $200,000 receive any aid? So yes, I mean, yeah. Well, I'm trying to formulate my answer to this question, but 85% of our families are families that are in the 100 to $300,000 range, right? Now you said over $200,000, so I don't know if that is you're making $5 million a year or $201,000 a year, right? But if you're in that range, then you're like a prime candidate for the families that we help get aid, right? So you should probably sign up for a consultation so that we can talk, and then I can tell you exactly what I think I can save for you. Okay. All right. So thank you guys for those questions. I'll kind of give it one more second to see if anyone else has any other questions. But the phone number is right here. This is the fastest way to book with us. The QR code is there, but if you look at it, you're probably going to see that I don't have any availability until January, right? So if you text us, we'll try to get to you guys right away, so that we can talk before the year ends. Okay. All right. So I don't see any other questions, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this screen up so you guys can get the phone number. Or if you're a sophomore family or freshman family, you can definitely use that QR code to talk to us, because the critical tax year isn't kind of ending for you yet. Okay. But if you are a junior family, if you are a senior family, you need to talk to us quickly. Text that phone number 650-860-5201 and put urgent on it or something, like send us multiple messages so that we get to you right away, okay? All right. So I will be here again next week, right? It'll be short, it'll be sweet. I will give you guys a special kind of holiday offer, right? And if you guys have any other questions, please let us know and we'll talk to you again soon, okay? Thanks for spending a little time with me tonight, and we'll see you again next week, okay? Bye-bye.